You know, there was a time when going to the cinema meant something special, when the first notes of a score could send shivers down your spine, when stories had the power to unite audiences in shared wonder. Hollywood wasn't just an industry then, it was a dream factory, creating moments that would live forever in our collective imagination. Every weekend brought the possibility of experiencing something extraordinary, of being transported to worlds we'd never imagined, of sharing in adventures that would stay with us forever. Think back to those transformative moments that only cinema could create. E.T. flying across the moon, the T-Rex emerging from its paddock in Jurassic Park, the first reveal of The Matrix, the Fellowship setting out from Rivendell. These weren't just scenes in movies, they were cultural touchstones. Moments that brought us together, that gave us shared references and common ground, that made us believe in the power of storytelling. However, in the recent years, something has changed, something fundamental and perhaps irreversible. The same studios that once crafted unforgettable classics are now churning out hollow products, each one feeling more lifeless than the last. Box office numbers are plummeting, beloved franchises are crumbling, and audiences are walking away in numbers that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago. The question isn't whether Hollywood is in crisis, it's whether the Hollywood we once knew is already dead. To understand how we got here, we need to look at a transformation that happened so gradually, many of us didn't notice it happening. It's the story of how an industry built by dreamers and storytellers was slowly taken over by executives and accountants, how art became algorithm, and how the connection between storyteller and audience was severed, perhaps irreparably. This isn't just about changing tastes or evolving technology, it's about the fundamental loss of something precious, something that once made Hollywood truly special. The seeds of this decline was planted years ago, when the original studio heads, people who had built the industry from nothing, who understood storytelling in their bones, began to be replaced by corporate executives who saw movies not as art but as product. The change was subtle at first. Movies became content, stories became intellectual property, audiences became demographics. Each shift seemed small on its own, but together they represented a fundamental change in how Hollywood viewed its purpose. Think about the early days of cinema, when studios were run by people who had worked their way up through the industry. Walt Disney started as an animator, Louis B. Mayer built theaters. These weren't just businessmen. Today's Hollywood executives couldn't be more different. They live in a world of private jets and gated compounds, of premium services and endless privilege. Many have never worked on an actual film set. Most have never created anything themselves. They view storytelling through spreadsheets and market research, through focus groups and demographic data. They're so removed from their audience that they've lost the ability to understand what audiences want, or perhaps worse, they no longer care.
Hey Bob, if you're in the audience.
The signs of this disconnect were there early if we'd known where to look. When Disney announced its first live-action remakes, they seemed like an interesting experiment, a way to bring beloved classics to a new generation. But looking back now, we can see it was the beginning of something more insidious. The transformation of creativity into formula. Instead of asking, how can we tell new stories? Hollywood began asking, how can we resell old ones? This pattern accelerated with the rise of mega franchises. When Marvel started planning dozens of interconnected projects, it felt ambitious and exciting. Here was long-form storytelling on an unprecedented scale. The build-up through Iron Man, Thor and Captain America, leading to the Avengers and eventually to Endgame, represented something truly special, a carefully crafted narrative that respected both its characters and its audience. But of course, success breeds excess, and excess breeds complacency. After Endgame, Marvel's careful world building gave way to scattered, disconnected projects that felt more like products than stories. Characters no longer needed to earn their powers or face real consequences. Plot points didn't need to make sense as long as they served the next setup. The magic of storytelling was replaced by the mechanics of content creation. Star Wars tells perhaps the most painful part of this story. The original trilogy, succeeded because it understood something fundamental about storytelling, the need for heroes to earn their journey. Luke Skywalker began as a nobody, a farm boy, dreaming of adventure. Throughout his journey, he failed repeatedly, learned painfully, and earned every victory through sacrifice and growth. When he finally stood as a Jedi, we believed it because we had witnessed every step of his transformation. His story worked because it followed the fundamental principles of storytelling that have connected with audiences since humans first gathered around fires to share tales. The sequel trilogy, by contrast, exemplifies everything wrong about modern Hollywood. Rey began as the most powerful Force user in history, never truly failed, never really struggled, and received powers without training or explanation. The audience can feel the difference even if Hollywood executives can't understand why it matters. Disney's acquisition of Star Wars marked a turning point in how Hollywood viewed beloved franchises. The result was a trilogy that felt algorithmically generated rather than creatively inspired. Characters appeared without development, plot points happened without setup, victories were achieved without sacrifice. The magic of Star Wars that had captivated audiences for generations was replaced by something that looked like Star Wars but felt empty. The same pattern has repeated across every major franchise. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, once masters of long-form storytelling, now churns out disconnected projects that feel like products rather than stories. Each new offering seems more concerned with checking boxes and setting up future content than with telling a compelling story in the present. Characters arrive fully formed, face no real challenges, and achieve victories without cost. Disney's live-action remakes perhaps best exemplified this creative bankruptcy. Each one strips away the soul of a beloved classic while adding nothing of value in return.
Second of it.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see.
The Little Mermaid loses its message about the price of transformation. Beauty and the Beast loses its message about seeing beyond appearances. In their place, we get empty spectacle and superficial updates that miss the point of what made the originals timeless. The streaming era has only accelerated this decline. In their rush to produce content, studios have prioritized quantity over quality at an unprecedented scale. Netflix, Disney+, Amazon Prime, and others flood their platforms with mediocre productions, each one feeling more algorithmic and lifeless than the last. The goal isn't to tell great stories anymore, it's to keep subscribers scrolling through endless options. Even if they rarely find anything worth watching, the numbers tell a devastating story. Disney has lost more than 180 billion in market value since 2019. Marvel's latest releases are performing worse than anyone could have predicted. Star Wars can barely fill theaters. But these aren't just statistics, they're evidence of a fundamental breakdown in the relationship between Hollywood and its audience. They represent millions of people who have simply stopped believing in the magic that Hollywood once reliably provided. What makes this situation particularly tragic is Hollywood's response to failure. When audiences reject their latest projects, the industry's reaction is never self-reflection. Instead, they blame toxic fans, claim their critics are motivated by prejudice, or insist that audiences aren't sophisticated enough to appreciate their vision. It's a stunning display of arrogance that reveals just how deep the industry's problems run. Rather than acknowledge that they might have lost their way, executives double down on the very approaches that are driving audiences away. This disconnect is perhaps most visible in how Hollywood handles criticism. When Top Gun Maverick succeeded by following traditional storytelling principles and respecting its audience, the industry treated it as an anomaly rather than a lesson. When Spider-Man: No Way Home proved that audiences will still show up for well-crafted stories that honor their source material, Hollywood ignored the implications. Each success that contradicts the current approach is dismissed or explained away while each failure is used to justify even more of the same failed strategies. Meanwhile, something remarkable is happening outside Hollywood's system. Asian entertainment, particularly anime and Korean dramas, are thriving by focusing on fundamental storytelling principles. Shows like Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan succeed not through massive budgets or celebrity names, but through careful character development, earned moments, and respect for their audience. When Demon Slayer Mugen Train outperformed Hollywood blockbusters globally, it proved that audiences aren't tired of theatrical experiences, they're just tired of hollow ones. The success of Asian entertainment reveals everything Hollywood has forgotten about storytelling. These productions understand that characters need to earn their moments through genuine struggle and growth. They recognize that actions need to have real consequences. They remember that while spectacle can draw an audience in, it's emotional investment that makes them stay. Most importantly, they respect their viewers enough to let stories develop naturally rather than forcing them to serve corporate mandates. Independent creators are rising as well, building massive followings by understanding something Hollywood has forgotten: the importance of genuine connection with your audience. These creators don't have billion-dollar budgets or marketing campaigns. What they have is authenticity, passion, and respect for their viewers. They engage directly with their audience, learn from feedback, and adapt accordingly. Today's viewers have options they never had before. They can find entertainment that respects their intelligence, values their time, and delivers genuine storytelling rather than corporate products. Hollywood's decline isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening because audiences have found better alternatives. Each failure is met with the same response: spend more money, add more spectacle, blame the audience when it fails. It's a cycle of denial and arrogance that shows no signs of breaking. The industry appears committed to its path of self-destruction, too proud or too blind to change course. Perhaps the death of Hollywood as we knew it is necessary to happen for something better to emerge. The future of entertainment won't belong to those with the biggest budgets or the most prestigious offices. It will belong to those who remember what Hollywood forgot: that at its heart, entertainment is about connecting with your audience. The tragedy of Hollywood's decline isn't just about the loss of an industry, it's about the loss of a dream factory that once brought people together through the power of shared stories. But perhaps this ending is also a beginning. Hollywood isn't dying only because it went woke, or because of streaming, or because of any of the other excuses it offers. Hollywood is dying because it broke faith with its audience. It forgot that stories aren't products to be engineered, but experiences to be shared. It forgot that audiences aren't demographics to be targeted, but people to be moved. Most of all, it forgot that magic isn't something you can manufacture. It's something you have to believe in. The best stories have always come from people who remember what it's like to sit in the audience, to feel the lights dim, to hold their breath in anticipation, to believe in magic. After all, stories don't need Hollywood. They never did. Stories only need people who love them enough to tell them, and in the end, that might be all that matters. Like this video if you liked this video, share and subscribe. See ya.